The frigid air of a New York winter bit at Jacob Thompson's skin as he huddled near the entrance of a high-end department store. He pulled his tattered coat tighter around himself, trying to fight off the relentless cold. His unshaven face was red from the biting wind, and his cracked lips whispered silent prayers for warmth. Jacob had been living on the streets for nearly 2 years. He had lost count of the days, but the feeling of emptiness in his stomach reminded him just how long it had been since he had a proper meal. Tonight was especially brutal. Snowflakes swirled in the air as well-dressed people rushed by, ignoring his presence as if he were invisible. He watched them enter luxury stores, their hands gripping designer bags, their faces lit up with the warmth of privilege. It felt like a different world, one he no longer belonged to. Jacob used to have a life. A good one. A steady job as a construction manager, a modest home, and, most importantly, a family. But all of that had been ripped away when a devastating car accident took the lives of his wife and daughter. Grief swallowed him whole. He lost the will to work, lost his home, and eventually lost himself. He had never begged before, but hunger had a way of breaking a man. Tonight, he had made up his mind, he would swallow his pride and ask someone for help. Just $1. Enough for something, anything, to eat. He spotted a young man walking toward a sleek, black SUV parked near the curb. The man was tall, dressed in a dark wool coat and polished shoes. He carried himself with quiet confidence, standing out from the crowd. Jacob hesitated, but then, gathering his courage, he took a shaky step forward. "Excuse me, sir, can you spare $1?" The young man stopped. Jacob's heart pounded. He expected him to ignore him, maybe even scoff at him like so many others had before. But the man didn't walk away. Instead, he turned and looked Jacob in the eye. "Why just $1?" Jacob blinked, caught off guard by the question. I just need something to eat," he stammered. The young man studied him for a long moment. Then, he did something Jacob never expected. "What's your name?" Jacob swallowed. Jacob Thompson." The young man nodded. "Jacob, come with me." Jacob hesitated. Was this some kind of trick? Would he be humiliated? "I won't hurt you," the man said, his voice steady. "I just want to help." Something in his tone felt genuine. Reluctantly, Jacob followed him toward the black SUV. The driver, a middle-aged man in a dark suit, gave a questioning glance, but the young man simply nodded. The door opened, and Jacob stepped inside. A warm place in the cold. The moment Jacob stepped into the vehicle, warmth enveloped him. It felt almost unreal after enduring months of freezing nights on the streets. The scent of leather seats and faint cologne filled the air, a stark contrast to the city's biting wind. The young man sat across from him, studying him closely. "Where have you been staying?" he asked. Jacob hesitated. "Anywhere I can." The young man nodded, as if expecting that answer. He reached for his phone and dialed a number. "Get a room ready at the Trump Tower Hotel. And bring some clean clothes," he instructed. Jacob's breath hitched. Did he hear that right? "Wait, what?" he asked in disbelief. The man put down his phone and looked at him. "You're coming with me, Jacob. You don't need $1, you need a second chance." That was the moment it clicked. Jacob suddenly recognized the man. It was Barron Trump. A new beginning. They arrived at Trump Tower, a place Jacob had only seen in passing. The golden exterior shimmered under the city lights as the car pulled up to the entrance. Jacob felt out of place. His tattered clothes and unkempt beard contrasted with the pristine marble floors and lavish chandeliers inside. An attendant handed him a keycard. "Mr. Trump has arranged a suite for you." Jacob turned to Barron. "Why are you doing this?" Barron shrugged. "Because I can." That night, Jacob took the longest shower of his life, scrubbing away months of grime, along with the shame and despair he had carried. He put on the fresh clothes left for him, simple but clean. For the first time in years, he slept on a real bed, under warm blankets, without fear of the cold. The job offer. The next morning, Barron took him to a construction site, one of Trump Organization's new developments. Jacob instantly recognized the layout, the scaffolding, the blueprints spread out on a table. His old instincts kicked in. He started analyzing the structure, muttering calculations under his breath. Barron smiled. "You know construction, don't you?" Jacob nodded. "I used to manage projects like this." Barron turned to the site manager. "You need a foreman." The manager glanced at Jacob, skeptical. "You sure about this?" Barron nodded. "Give him a chance." Jacob's hands trembled as he filled out the paperwork. This was it, his shot at redemption. By the end of the day, he had a job. A real job. Not just $1. A future. 6 months later. Jacob stood outside a familiar coffee shop, sipping from a steaming cup. He had a small apartment now, a steady paycheck, and was even saving up for a car. He had spent months working hard, earning the trust of his co-workers, proving himself again. But the most important part? He had hope. As he walked down the street, he saw a man sitting on the sidewalk, shivering in the cold, a cardboard sign in his hands. Jacob reached into his pocket and pulled out a crisp $100 bill. The man's eyes widened. "I only asked for $1. Jacob smiled. "Don't settle for less than you deserve." The viral sensation. What Jacob didn't know was that someone had recorded his first encounter with Barron Trump that night. The video went viral. Millions saw Barron's act of kindness, Jacob's transformation, and the lesson behind it. News outlets covered it. Social media exploded. #SecondChance, #Barron Trump, #Jacob Thompson story trended worldwide. Jacob was even invited to speak on national television about his journey, inspiring thousands who had lost their way. And to think, it all started with a single $1. Final message. Sometimes, people don't need money. They just need someone to believe in them.